Hi, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Why Not Us with Ciara LeRoy as a part of our second annual Midwest Design Week. My name is Ashton Span, and I volunteer as co-vice president with AIGA Cincinnati, one of the 70 plus chapters of AIGA, the Professional Association for Design. This week, we've had so many great events focused around the theme of access to design, and that still includes our closing keynote event today during the lunch hour. Thank you for your feedback by Liz Jackson and Alex Hogarth, founding members of the Disabled List. All of the events have been recorded and will be available on YouTube in case you're unable to watch any of the events in real time. If you're not on Slack already, you should probably just go ahead and do it so that we can stay up to date with all of the rest of the events information from today, as well as be to connect with others in your creative community. We will also be accepting questions throughout the presentation. So go ahead and just drop them in the chat whenever you have them, and we'll collect them all and read them out at the end. I want to go ahead and thank our sponsors. None of this would have been possible without their support. So thank you so much to Saatchi and Saatchi X, the University of Arkansas Graphic Design Program, Creatives on Call, Salesforce, Deckle and Moneypenny, and the rest of our amazing sponsors. Thank you so much for all of your support. We are grateful and honored that you have entrusted us to fulfill our goals for Midwest Design Week in a meaningful way. If you need special accommodations to ensure that the rest of your day today at Midwest Design Week is a great experience, please don't hesitate to reach out to one of our amazing organizing team members on Slack, and we will do our best to provide you with whatever you need. With that being said, we're now ready to go ahead and get things rolling. I'm really excited to introduce today's speaker, Ciara LeRoy. Ciara, AKA Pretty Strange, is a Cincinnati-based independent artist specializing in lettering, illustration, murals, and hand embroidery. In 2017, she started Pretty Strange Design with a mission to make eye-popping, beautiful, and offbeat creations that inject imagination into everyday life. She is always seeking to make work that is well crafted and visually intriguing, but also deeply thoughtful, encouraging a socially conscious thoughtful, encouraging, and socially conscious. Ciara has been featured by Insider, Better Homes and Gardens, Frankie, and Pop Sugar, and some of her past clients have included Cosmopolitan, Verizon, Madewell, Ann Taylor, Loft, and Facebook. Now, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Ciara.
All right, Ashton, thank you so much for that mouthful of an intro. And huge thanks to AIGA for giving me this platform today. And the biggest thanks goes to all of you for attending today. Thank you for spending part of your Friday morning with me, and for taking the time this week to listen and to wonder about access and design. I'm sure many of you have heard this quote by Shirley Chisholm, who, if you don't know, was the first Black woman elected to Congress and the first Black candidate for a major party's nomination for president. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. These are the words of someone who refused to passively wait for access and instead created their own, and in turn created access for the generations that have followed. I'm going to use my time today to tell the story of my own folding chair and what happened once I sat down at the table. Next slide. I had been, in 2019, I had been living in Lexington, Kentucky for many years, and I had finally reached the edge of my frustration with the lack of diversity and inclusion in Lexington's creative and design community. I was tired of watching my Black creative peers be consistently overlooked and left out of consideration for opportunities, not because they lacked talent, but because they fell outside of this invisible box made up of cliques, ignorance, apathy, and privilege. As I thought about all of this, I began to ask the question, next slide, why not us? We are talented, we're unique, we're hardworking, and we are 100% worthy. Yet we often struggle to achieve even a fraction of what our white peers do in this industry. So I started plotting. And I came up with the idea to gather some of the strongest Black talent in Lexington into one room and take a family photo, a family portrait, and share it with as many people as possible. A celebration of us, but also a call to action for the wider community. In this photo, we would all face the camera and ask, why not us? Next slide. So the day came and we gathered. I had never even met many of the people I invited there that day, yet we talked, laughed, hugged, and encouraged each other like family, because we are a family. Next slide. Bonded by a shared history of pain and injustice, but also bonded by the joy and magic that is being us and being Black. Next slide. And speaking of being Black, everything about that day was, I made sure we had the shoot at a Black-owned venue. I hired a Black photographer to take the photos. In addition to the group shot, everyone also got individual portraits that you see here. So we all walked away with amazing images of ourselves to enjoy and share. Next slide. But the main point of the shoot was to gather the strong collection of Black creatives into one room and in one photo, because a common refrain among people in power when asked why their spaces aren't inclusive is, well, I just don't know anyone. I don't know who to ask. I don't know any Black designers, influencers, artists, models, animators, writers, fill in the blank. But with a resource like this photo out there, it would be undeniable that there is loads of diverse talent to hire in Lexington, collaborate with, uplift, and celebrate. And that the people in the photo were just a small sampling of that talent. I wanted to start creating an environment where people could no longer claim ignorance to the problem of inequality. Next slide. So what happened next? Next slide. I put together an Instagram post and directly called out and tagged design firms, marketing and ad agencies, publications, companies, and tastemakers in the Lexington community that I knew could do and had the responsibility to do better when it came to inclusion and representation. And I'm going to go ahead and read the full caption that I posted underneath this photo. Lexington, I'd like to introduce you to some amazing people. A week ago, I gathered these beautiful Black creatives into one room and asked this question, why not us? We're artists, musicians, marketers, bloggers, designers, and influencers. We live in Lexington, Kentucky, a place that, like the rest of this country, has a past of mistreating and marginalizing anyone who isn't wealthy and or white. Coming up in 2020, I and my community are still fighting to have our voices heard and our work seen. I've earned many new opportunities in the past couple of years, but I'm still seeing many of my talented peers consistently being overlooked and underestimated. So I decided to change that. Instead of passively waiting for systems to change, we have to create our own opportunities. In lieu of waiting for a seat at the table, we're bringing our own folding chair. If you're tagged in this post, it's because I admire what you do in Lexington. I'd like to see more inclusion in your work, and I'd like to see you invite more Black people to the events, campaigns, and work you create. You are local businesses, you are branding, marketing agencies, you are publications, you are tastemakers, and you have a responsibility as dispensers of taste, information, and community identity to represent all of us and to work with all of us. There are people of all types watching, and they deserve to see themselves in what you do. Fellow influencers, designers, artists, bloggers, etc., if you consider yourself an ally, consider making inclusion a condition of your participation in events, panels, etc., AKA demand inclusion. Speak up when you see a guest list, speaking panel, etc., that is not inclusive. Do not be silent. I started this project for my community in Lexington and beyond. I started this project for my Black creative peers. I started this project for the younger version of myself. Visibility matters, and you can't be what you can't see. I want to see more people who look like me represented at local events and magazines, hired to do creative work, because the next generation is watching and they need to know they can be whatever they want to be. The post was really successful in terms of views, likes, shares, and comments, and I got a ton of support from friends and strangers who interacted with the post. But most of the businesses and companies I tagged in the post, most of the people I was challenging to listen and to do better did not respond. Some of us who participated in the shoot ended up having conversations and a couple of meetings with a couple of those tagged, but nothing really substantial, meaningful, or lasting came from those meetings at the time. The main successes of the Why Not Us project were that we as Black creatives were encouraged and energized by each other. I received a lot of comments and messages from Black people in other cities saying that they were inspired to do something similar with the creatives in their community because they noticed the same patterns of privilege and exclusion where they lived. And a few conversations were started, seeds were planted, and it got a lot of people thinking about how exclusive certain social and career circles in Lexington were. But I didn't see major progress or change in the specific companies that I called out until the summer of 2020, which, as you all know, was at the height of a global pandemic and following the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Next slide. Next slide. Many of the same companies that were silent when I asked them to engage with this 6 months prior were all of a sudden posting Black squares and issuing statements underneath of those boxes like, next slide, we will work for meaningful, immediate, and lasting change. Next slide. There's always hope and there's always good. No one can ever take that away from you. Which, what that has to do with police brutality, I have no idea. Next slide. Stop the hate, stop the violence. Next slide. We stand with our Black brothers and sisters. Next slide. And this was my face when I was seeing all of that. Seeing all of those posts left me feeling like the majority of people will only stand with us when tragedy strikes or when optics, popularity, and the risk of being canceled is at stake. It felt like our voices didn't matter until there was societal pressure to care. Next slide. Obviously, I can't know the motivations of everyone who posted a Black square or made a statement about police brutality and racial equality last summer, but I'm sharing this experience to show how important and how impactful it is to listen to marginalized communities the first time and to listen to us when no one else is watching, to actively do the right thing when no one else is watching, to actively upset inequality even when it isn't trending or popular. Next slide. Also, if you hear a little jingling bell, that is my cat. She has the zoomies right now, so apologies. So this is an embroidery piece that I stitched shortly after the murder of George Floyd. You can see that it's a bit rough and imprecise. I stitched this really quickly out of frustration at the cycle of outrage that I was witnessing yet again. And that cycle is tragedy, shock, sadness, outrage, blame, blame, blame. What do we do? Talk, talk, post, post, post. yet do nothing in your daily life to dismantle oppression, and repeat. I wondered what it would look like for those with privilege to actively and radically dismantle injustice and oppression, no matter what the social climate was. One of the things that was so hard and confusing about comparing the overall lack of support we got from the creative community after the Why Not Us project to the wave of support we got following the summer of 2020 from those same people was knowing that my voice and the voices of everyone in that photo wasn't enough to a lot of people. It took 3 high-profile murders and a global pandemic for much of the world to listen and believe Black people, and that's a huge problem. All week, you've been learning about and discussing different facets of access and design. And I know it seems obvious and maybe simple, but one of the first steps in expanding access is believing people when they tell you they don't have it. Next slide. So I've got some tips and hard truths if you are on this call and you consider yourself an ally. As an ally, your feelings will often need to come last. It can be an embarrassing and painful process to own up to apathy, ignorance, or wrongdoing, but do it anyway. The process of learning and unlearning will sometimes be clumsy and uncomfortable. Do it anyway. You will often lack motivation, especially if everyone around you has moved on or stopped trying. Do it anyway. The truth is that permanently improving access will take years and decades, not days or a few months, which is why the most radical thing you can do is to build access work into your daily life. If you're someone who posted a Black Square last year, marched in rallies, donated money, shopped at Black-owned businesses, or made any commitments last year surrounding equity and access, check in with yourself. How is that going? Are you still actively supporting Black businesses and creators? Are you still putting yourself in conversations and spaces that make you uncomfortable? Are you still seeking out connections with people who don't look like you or don't come from the same background as you? Are you still interrogating the hiring practices at your office? Are you still writing to representatives in government and voting in a way that strengthens and supports the least of us? Or have you gotten comfortable? Have you gotten complacent? Has your attention span moved on? If you've fallen off the wagon, are weary or complacent right now, stand back up. Next slide. Keep going, friends. Keep doing the work and keep adding chairs to your table so we don't have to carry so many in ourselves. Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ciara. I'm trying to get my camera back on. There we go. Thank you so much for that presentation. I love that quote too that you started with. I think it's really important that, you know, obviously we know that as Black designers and creatives, but I think it's important for everyone to know that in order for there to be change, we all have to put in the work, and we can't wait around for other people to get things started. We have to do it ourselves. That was something a lot that Jacinda Walker talked about yesterday for presentation, is that we can't wait, you know, for everyone else around us to make changes in our spaces around diversity and design. We have to go out there and we have to put in the work, and you know, we need support in that work. So I really appreciate that. I think that was very helpful to folks. I do have a couple questions I wanted to kind of get things started with. I wanted to ask first, I loved the photo shoot that you had set up in Lexington. Do you have any recommendations from either Lexington, Louisville, or Cincinnati of creatives that you'd recommend that, you know, us and our audience should follow and, you know, look into? and how we should go about doing that. I'm assuming obviously Instagram and stuff like that, but I'm sure you've got a lot of them you're probably thinking of, but if there's any of them that you could think off the top of your head to shout out. Yeah.
But, oh gosh. Wow. Okay. I might need to like think about that and drop some in the chat.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. I don't know, or if you didn't want to mention anyone who was in the photo shoot and stuff with you, and what their backgrounds are like. Were they all just creatives? Were they different? You know, what areas kind of did they span?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit at the end there.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, if totally, yeah, fine. I definitely put you on the spot with asking about who do you want to shout out. But I was also wondering too, some of the folks you gathered together for that photo shoot. Did you like what areas did they kind of span? Were they just, you know, were they all just creatives, designers? Like what were their kind of practice areas they were in?
Yeah. So yeah, what was really cool about it was that, well, like I said, I had never met like many of those people in person before. I, you know, admired their work on Instagram and beyond. But yeah, so there were one or two people who were like designers like me. We had an animator, which was really cool and rare to see, especially a Black animator. We had like bloggers, like the like lifestyle and like food blogging is big in Lexington, but like many of the Black bloggers like struggled to get invited to events that everyone else was getting invited to. So that was something we were trying to tackle. There were musicians that attended, and like PR people, marketers. So yeah, it was like a really diverse and broad range of disciplines that, and that was, you know, intentional because, you know, I wanted a diverse set of talent for people to become aware of and draw from across like a wide variety of industries.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you had a great group of different people from all different areas of creativity. So that is awesome. See, we've got another question. Did you circle back with those businesses who posted the Black squares? If so, what was the response? Or, you know, did you see any change? Or did you reach out to anyone who posted any Black squares?
Yeah. So I didn't reach out to every business that I didn't circle back around to every business because for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like but I did comment under like at least one or two, like asking what their specific plans were to make their spaces more inclusive and equitable, because it's like, we all know it's really easy to post a Black square or like post a, you know, a platitude from MLK on Martin Luther King Day, but like, what are you doing to actually like make changes? So yeah, I did comment under and ask for specific steps that they were going to take, because like I wanted to see that accountability and see how genuine it was. Yeah, and then so after summer of 2020, like a couple of those businesses that I had called out in 2019 did end up wanting to work with me, but like that interest didn't come until like after the height of the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020. So the timing of it was like was just like weird to me, that it was kind of like crickets in 2019, but like when everyone was watching, like they all of a sudden wanted to work with us. So like it was like, I think a lot of Black creative people would echo this, that it was like, it was exciting for people to want to work with us and like to have this wave of support, but it was also like bittersweet because of what it took to get to that place.
Yeah, no, I definitely agreed. I think even as someone who like works, you know, as a designer, like for a company and stuff, I feel like it was exciting and interesting / concerning that you know, there really wasn't a lot of focus, I felt like, on diversity and hiring, you know, more, you know, BIPOC, you know, creatives or designers in people's spaces until everything happened, you know, last year. Then everyone's like, oh, wait, you know, our spaces aren't diverse and blah, 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 which is like, okay, yeah, I'm glad you're making this a priority, but why did it have to come to this in order for, for you to think that we should have diverse diversity in terms of diversity of opinions and thoughts and ideas and backgrounds and all those different things. So I guess with that too, like what really makes the difference with those reach outs? Like, is it just staying like consistent with those things and not only being a part of those for a certain amount of time? Like, how do you judge if those interactions are genuine?
Oof. I mean, I judge if they're genuine. I mean, by seeing what happens next, like what are the actions that follow that conversation, and do they endure with time? So it's now 2021, and we are like about, a year removed from the height of interest in Black Lives Matter and Black people, and that we're seeing like there's like a little bit of or quite a drop in interest in certain areas, and people's attention spans have moved on. So I'm looking to see like, okay, a year later, like, are your commitments still in place? Are you still working on those? Or have you lost steam? Has it fallen to the back burner? So yeah, that's what I'm looking for to gauge who's genuine.
That makes sense. We've got another question saying, what other type of projects are you currently working on to continue to challenge society on supporting Black designers?
Yeah, so I don't currently have like an official project going. So because like I think that too often like the burden falls on Black people to like initiate projects like this and initiate the conversation, and it's like to do that labor. And so I think that like it's okay for me to like give myself permission to like rest and let allies do that labor and do that work. And so yeah, I would just remind people to like not depend on Black people to like keep initiating these things and keep like doing the work, so of undoing like our own oppression. So but like I would say equality and like talking about these issues, it's a part of my artistic practice, sometimes on a daily basis, like because it's something that I'm living as a Black woman. It's something I'm thinking about, and so a lot of my pieces of art tend to fall on that theme. And when I share them, like, sometimes that's a form of work and starting conversations, and a lot of great things come out of those individual pieces of art. So so yeah, that's what I view as my activist work right now.
Yeah. I know in your presentation, like when you did the Why Not Us project, you were in Lexington and pulling, Lexington creatives together. How have you been able to, necessarily find and be able to reconnect with other designers in other cities now that you're in Cincinnati?
Oh, so actually, I haven't been able to get super connected with the design community in Cincinnati just yet. I moved here in the middle of the pandemic last year. No one was gathering, obviously, and I wasn't, making much of an effort because I couldn't to like make new friends and people. So yeah, I'm still working on that and like really open to it, and yeah, reach out if you want to hang.
Yeah, I was just curious. I know it's hard. I feel like making those connections when you move from other cities. I'm not originally from Cincinnati either, so it's hard when you're plopping into your city. Like, okay, where are the creatives at? Where are the designers at? Like things like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's like I'm from Ohio originally. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, which is like 40 minutes north. So, and I grew up coming to Cincinnati a lot, and I know like Cincinnati has a very fraught history with like gentrification and racial equity and housing equity. So I'm looking forward to like getting to know more people and using my art to hopefully like explore those things and help make changes.
Awesome. I also want to ask you a little bit more of a personal question about your work. I'm just, because I have, looked at your Instagram and all that stuff. So I know that you do embroidery work and all this other stuff, but I know that you also do mural work and pattern work. Like, how did you get so involved in all these different disciplines and all these different areas of creativity?
Yes. So I would say the shortest answer is that I am indecisive. Like, I'm the type of person, like, when I go out to eat, I like want to get like 5 little like appetizers of small plates. Like, I don't want to choose just one thing. So like the same with artistic mediums. I'm easily interested in like new mediums all the time. And I like to change things up. It just keeps things fresh and exciting. And also, like, there are some messages that make more sense in a particular medium, so over another medium. So it's important to me to like know how to do a lot of different things depending on what message I'm trying to get across. So with embroidery, I first learned embroidery about 3 years ago. My friend Felice Salmon, who is also an amazing artist, community artist and activist in Lexington, she taught me some basic modern embroidery, and I took off from there and kept learning more on my own, and merged that with my hand lettering work. So that's how I started doing embroidery. The murals, that kind of happened on accident. I had a client I designed a logo for, and she asked me if I could paint the logo on her wall. Like, she asked if I did murals, and I had never done a mural before, but I just said yes, because I was just like, yeah, of course I could do that. Like, so I just like furiously Googled how to mural things. And it turned out amazing. It's still there, and it just like snowballed over the past few years into like a very lively muraling practice. But yeah, that's how that happened.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I just don't know. I've never met someone who had their, hands in so many different areas, and we would do so many different things. Like, I feel like I always get intimidated when I want to try a new thing, but I think that's really encouraging that, like, if you want to try something out, just go out and do it. It's the only way, it's going to get done the only way you're going to know. So awesome. Well, I don't know if we've got any more questions, but that's okay. I really appreciate your time today, and I really appreciate you coming in and speaking with us. Where can folks find you and follow your projects and everything that you're posting and working on?
Yeah, so on social media, I'm at Pretty Strange Design, most active on Instagram. I am working, slowly building my TikTok. It's a little sad right now, but I promise it's going to get better. And I have an Etsy store where I put, personal work and small little things that I make. Pretty Strange Studio, that's the name of my Etsy store. Yeah, and I'm always doing lots of projects and collaboration. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It was great having you today. I want to have everybody give another virtual round of applause for Ciara. Thanks so much for giving your time today and sharing your story and your experience. I think everyone, learned a lot from what, in terms of what things they can do to keep fighting the good fight and making sure that we're all equal and that we all have these opportunities. So with that, I'm also going to do a quick little outro. Just another thanks to our sponsors for making all of this possible. Midwest Design Week would not be a thing without your support, so we really appreciate it. If you in the audience need any additional support or having any technical issues, please feel free to reach out to us on Slack and the Midwest Design Week support channel. And then we hope to see everyone at this afternoon's keynote. Thank you for your feedback. with Liz Jackson and Alex Hogar at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central. All right. Bye, everybody.